Thank you, Richard, Jörg. And I'd just like to add my thanks to Richard and Jörg for putting this whole event together. I've done a lot of conferences over the various years and many talks about various parts of my career doing art and architecture around the world. But last year in Abu Dhabi was one of the best conferences I've ever been to, and I appreciate it takes a lot of effort to put this together, and I really appreciate you all coming to my hometown of Hong Kong. A few of you joined the tour last night, and thanks to Jörg for organising the boat ride, just to show off this amazing city that we get to call home. And hopefully at the time all the guests from overseas are here, you can get out and about and enjoy this amazing city. During the talk yesterday, I was asked quite a lot of questions about Hong Kong, about the metro, about the city, and I had a lovely 30-minute presentation set up for you all. Now I warn you, I've got about a 40-minute presentation set up because I've added a few extra slides, I've added some extra stories in here. But it's all going to be about Hong Kong because it is such an amazing city. Right, Richard, I might need your help. There we go. It is working. I did that. We're okay. So, just a bit of introduction for those that don't know me. I'm an architect by training, but I never studied transit architecture, nor did I have a train set when I was a kid. But I've been designing train stations my entire professional career. I've done one house and over 200 stations. I put 200 stations on this slide, but really, actually, it's been more than that. 100 of which are in Singapore alone. I spent 15 years in Singapore between 1996 and 2006, and again in a second stint in 2008 to 2013. And I came to Hong Kong in 2013. And for the past 12 years until the beginning of this year, I was the chief architect with MTR here in Hong Kong. A long time ago, you'll recognize Toronto up there. I started my career overseas in transit with the TTC. Originally starting on the Eglinton West subway, which never actually got built. They started digging a hole, but then the politics kicked in. And I flipped across to the Shepherd subway. And the Shepherd subway at that point had already been designed, but then I got to do the art program, and that's where I started to get involved in the artworks in MTR. And if you look on the side over here after the talk, there's a number of the books that we've produced over the years of the various artworks through here. But what we're going to talk about today is, of course, Hong Kong. In those cities, you'll see some examples of my work through there. Bazarian Station, up on the top. There's a fantastic video on YouTube called Finding Bazarian, if you want to go and check that out. And it talks about the design and how few people use it. Probably the single best station I've ever designed in my entire career is a Stadium Station in Singapore by Woha Architects. It was an international design competition. They actually won the competition with 2 stations, also Bras Basah. So if you're into Singapore, on the Circle Line, those 2 stations through there. In Dubai, where I'm now based, I'm now chief architect of the Blue Line, which is the new extension of the metro in Dubai. I was also the chief architect for the Red and Green Lines, and here you see Bergerman Station on the left-hand side, to complete with its chandeliers, which you need in every good metro station in the Middle East. And finally, my local station here in Hong Kong. This is Fo Tan Station, a rather unloved suburban station, which we transformed with some amazing artwork. And again, I've got a couple of slides to show you before and after on that. And as I mentioned, a big part of my career also has been about putting artworks into stations as well. So just some examples from Toronto, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Dubai as to what those have actually been over the various years. And being a transit mapping scenario, I included a few maps. This is not my work. I had a little bit to do with the Hong Kong map, and I'll show you a little bit about that. But for those of you who are into the maps, the Dubai map's going to need updating very soon because we're building a new line. So if you want a job, get in touch with RTA because that map there definitely can be improved quite a bit. So Hong Kong. I'm sure some of you have been here already, traveled around the metro. It currently has 99 stations. The 100th will be opening in 2029. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I've had a hand in about 7 or 8 of the stations across through there. And the thing about Hong Kong is that it's not obviously a great transit city. When you look at the geographical map of Hong Kong, it's very hilly, as I'm sure you've figured out, and B, it's full of a lot of islands, and there's a lot of water to cross. When you overlay the actual routes of the map, not the one the system map you're used to seeing, you start to see what's going on in the city. In fact, it's a series of linear, super high density cities, all connected by the metro, which what makes Hong Kong not just a transit-orientated development, it's a transit-orientated city. We have some of the highest density of people that use public transit, not just the metro, but buses as well, and taxis, in anywhere in the world. And a lot of city mayors come to Hong Kong saying, how do you do it? How do you make this happen? Part of it is our Rail Plus property deal, which I'll talk a little bit later on, but a lot of it is an accident of geography. It's the fact that the railway lines go along these edges of the water, and it creates these super high density corridors between the water and the hills. Now, the metro itself is a child of the 60s like myself. If you look carefully up in the top right-hand corner, you'll see this map was drawn in 1970. And the yellow line that comes down here, that's what we call the Sha Tin Central Link. That opened 4 years ago. So the amount of planning that goes on through into metros is really astounding. Sometimes it's political reasons, sometimes it was technical reasons. Here you see Kennedy and Whitty stations on here. This is the Kennedy Town and Sai Ying Pun stations. They were completed in 2015, but again, they were marked in the map in 1970, and they were put there because they wanted to go there, but the ground was so bad they couldn't build them. And it's only been over the last 40 years that the construction techniques have improved, enabling those railways actually to be built and the final railway to come out. But of course, what you need to remember is what did Hong Kong look like in the 1960s and the 1970s. This is a photo, I think it was taken in 1968. And it shows the shanty towns, and then you just start to see the modern buildings that are coming up in Hong Kong. And this was generally across the whole city. And it was those city leaders that had the foresight to build the metro, to decide that we needed the MTR. And if you're taking public transit at the time, this was probably the way you was going to get around. They didn't even really have a proper bus service. So kids used to go to school on the back of a truck. And it was in this environment that the government decided to build the metro. This is Diamond Hill Station under construction, 1977. In the back you can see the Lion Rock through there. And what's interesting about it, when they finished it a few years later, it still looked like that. You know, it was quite remarkable that you're building this massive 8-car metro for what is essentially a shanty town. Of course, that stimulated this development. So this is the same site. And if you go, sorry, I'll go back a slide here. You see these pink and blue vent shafts in the middle through there. If you actually go to this place where I put the red circle, that's where they still are. So you get your reference point of where you are. And the brown construction work on the side here, that's the Sha Tin Central Link under construction a few years back when this Google Map, Earth Map was done. And of course, that's just one site, but it's exactly what's happened to the whole city. So in 1980, you see Jardine House in the middle of this slide through here. Not only the tallest building in Hong Kong, but the tallest building in the whole of Southeast Asia. And it held that title for many, many years. Wind forward 40 years, spot Jardine House. It's right in the middle there, swamped by all these towers. And that pace of development has been driven by the MTR. It really has. It's the one key thing that has made this city the amazing place that it's become. And of course, it comes back to this map. And I love showing this next slide because it just shows you how much you should never believe in maps. I know Jörg has a phrase, in maps we trust. You should never trust the metro map because this is a comparison of the metro map to real life. So never follow a metro map if you're planning to walk anywhere. You'll see Hong Kong Island is made in the map 4 times the size of Lantau. It's a real bit of cheating going on. But I love this little animation. One of my team did a few years back. Off, okay, all right. So there it is today. And of course, when it opened in 1979, it was a lot smaller. This was actually the first section that actually opened. And over the years, it went through various iterations. In fact, there were 2 metro companies here originally, the MTR and the KCR, and they were merged into one company. And so this is the map that was developed for that. And just after I joined, I was given the task of redrawing this. And the analysis we put together was that it was too congested in the front, and it needed to have some space for future expansions that were coming from. So my contribution was to help design this map through here, which then had lots of space, and I'll save you the whole thing, but basically all the future lines came on without adjusting the underlying map through there. So it's really quite important, and this actually happened over a series of years. But the very point is that visually it remained the same no matter what the line was being added. And we got the future ones as well. I talked briefly about the rail plus property model. I've just got two kind of wordy slides to explain through that. This is not really my part of expertise with MTR, but I often asked, how does this work? I said last night that MTR is a property company that runs a railway. And basically, we are one of the largest property developers in the city. And, oops, sorry, let's go back a slide. And this is the tripartite agreement that we have with the government. Basically, we buy the land at commercial rates at its value before the metro has been built. And then, of course, the land value increases because we have the metro station there. We then sell those properties on, and that funds the building of the railway. And that really works in this city because we have some of the highest real estate prices in the world. And so that's one of the reasons why it can't be replicated so easily in other parts of the world. The other thing that sets us apart is that we design, build, operate, and then manage and run those properties as well. So it's an entire ecosystem. You can live your life in MTR. You can go to a school in an MTR property. You can work in an MTR property. You can live in an MTR property. And guess what? Travel between those on the MTR. It's a really quite remarkable ecosystem that they've built up in this city. And this is the first example of that. So this is Telford Gardens. So you see the depot underneath, and on top of that was the first property development that MTR did. This was close, This is close to the old Kai Tak airport, which was one of the reasons why these buildings are quite low. This is a more recent photograph, and you see those tower blocks in there. They were all built after the airport was relocated, and I've got a little bit of a story about that. So the old Kai Tak airport used to be right in the center of the harbor. Actually, when I was on the boat trip last night, you could see the cruise terminal that's now there. And what was done just before the handover was the airport was relocated out to Lantau, and that's where you guys would have lived. Bringing the airport into Hong Kong was a key part of the whole design philosophy. So it was built with very much in mind the Airport Express and a local line called the Tung Chung line. So there's actually two lines that run parallel to each other all the way out to Lantau Island. And with that were two of the largest transit-orientated developments that MTR undertook, the two gateway towers, the IFC and the ICC on the right-hand side, and that's the tallest tower in Hong Kong. Designed by Terry Farrells and master planned as an entire ecosystem. This is an office tower and hotel, and it's surrounded by another couple of hotels, but primarily residential buildings through there. And it is truly an integrated TOD. So you have, from the bottom up, you have the Tung Chung line. The next line up is the Airport Express, and that is surrounded by a shopping center, and then those are then themselves surrounded by office towers and the hotels. This is a view of the public garden at the top, so the whole of the upper deck is a public space accessible 24/7. And then as you pull back from that, it's now surrounded by what's called the West Kowloon Cultural District. And this is the tunnel that goes across Hong Kong Harbour and through, and you see the M Plus building. Just when I joined MTR in 2013, we were just starting the construction of the high-speed rail station. And again, I've added this into the slides. It wasn't originally in the presentation, but I thought a few people were asking about the connections up to the mainland. You see the station here and how the West Kowloon Cultural District is kind of surrounding that. In fact, the station extends right down to the waterfront. We actually pre-built a lot of the car parks for the West Kowloon Cultural District as part of the project through there. A few facts and figures. It's a really interesting project because it connects to the whole of mainland China, but also into Hong Kong, and it sits between two existing lines. We have the West Rail line and the Tung Chung line and the Airport Express. So it kind of makes a horizontal connection with all those other lines as well as connecting all the way out to the mainland. And this is where you see it when you kind of pull out a little bit and see how it connects up to Shenzhen and Guangzhou through here, and Futian Station is about 17 minutes away. It's really, really super close. But that's not really what it's about. It's about this next slide. It's about tapping into the world's biggest high-speed rail network. And this is the Chinese system. I think it's got 26,000 kilometers, which is singularly larger than anywhere else in the world through that. It's got about 8,000 kilometers under construction right now, which is more than all of Europe has in operation today. So it's an absolutely amazing thing. You can get a train from Hong Kong all the way to Beijing now. It takes about 8 hours on a high-speed rail station. So it's really quite a remarkable commitment to high-speed rail that the Chinese government has given. Inside the station, it was largely designed when I joined the project. I was responsible primarily for the art program here. There's 6 artworks that come through. The green wall down there is part of the art program. And if you've got time, you can go to the building. It's got this amazing rooftop through, and it goes up to the top, and you can look back onto Hong Kong Island. So if you've got a little bit of time, it's well worth visiting the building, just walking around the whole of the building itself. And over the top, interestingly, is a development that we planned for, but wasn't developed by NTR. So I mentioned the MTR way of doing things and saying we were developing. But what happened over the years is that the developers in this town, who are very powerful, started knocking on the door of the government and say, hey, you're giving millions and billions to MTR. We'll give you better money for this. So this project was actually just a project managed by MTR. The development over the top was then marketed out. MTR bid for it, but we were outbid by another company. And this is a Zaha Hadid building that's close to being completed now. If you actually go down to the site, it's almost about to top out through here. So this is not an MTR developed building, but it is built and integrated with the station down below. We provided the foundations and planned for all the connections into the station below. So when I joined in 2013, the government had just announced a whole round of expansions. And so I've been pretty much my 12 years with MTR was involved in these projects. I don't have time to go through every single one. So I'm just going to concentrate a little bit on the Oyster Bay station because it kind of shows this, how MTR and Hong Kong do these integrated developments, but really do it at a scale that is unprecedented around the world. So Oyster Bay is on Lantau. It's the site of the existing depot facility for the Airport Express trains, for the Tung Chung line, and also for the Disney line. So it's an existing facility right now. And of course, geographically, it's located close to the airport, close to Hong Kong, and of course, close to Shenzhen itself as well. So it's in a very strategic location. This is kind of an aerial shot of it, and it's just over there where that bit of land reclaim goes out, and you can see the amount of reclaim and redevelopment that's going on around the airport itself. It's becoming an airport city in its own right. Aerial view of the site, not particularly attractive right now. It's just simply reclaimed. They built a depot facility and stabling facility. There's a test track on the site, but this is what actually is being planned by our friends at Arup, is a complete new town. There's 100 towers on this site, and each of them is a minimum of 50 stories high. So it's a real new town. It's got shopping centres. It's going to have its own police station, its own schools. And what I was saying earlier, you can live your entire life in this development as it sits. Obviously, it will be developed over a 20-year period. It's a 25-year development program. But MTR has done this before. If you want to see one that's already been completed, you take a train out to Lohas Park, and there you see a property development of similar scale to this that was started 20 years ago and is just now being finished with its final shopping centres and final towers. So this is a cross-section through the site, and the grey hatch is the depot. So it's a bit like Telford Gardens that I showed you through here. You see an example of the towers and the school in there. I don't know why it's jumping around already. But if you zoom into the left-hand side, you start to see the station itself. And you have the Airport Express running through the middle and the Tung Chung line, which is the stopping service here, going through. Very, very tight site that we had to deal with because we have the highway on one side, the depot on the other side, and then obviously the station is built up above. And we have to get people quite high up into that space. So there's a three-dimensional axonometric of how that station is laid out. And just a couple of images around the new station. And this kind of shows my new design philosophy around the use of mosaics. When I joined MTR, and you go and see the Island Line extension stations, you'll notice that there's no mosaic in them. And I kind of said, guys, why is that? Your signature is, we lost the middle screen. Your signature is mosaic. And so we said, well, the operators don't like maintaining it. Does anyone can fix that screen? And they said, we don't like it. And I said, but that's our DNA. That's who we are. Mosaic, bright colors, and the calligraphy. And so I've put it back into our design manual now that every new station shall have this in. And it can be treated a little bit more sophisticated. So, it's gone again. Try it again. So here you see in the middle, the signature color of the station is obviously orange, but it uses a tonality of the orange, not just the one color. And that's the introduction of the more sophisticated approach to the colors that we go through. This is a view up on the bridge. I've got an entire video, and I see a couple of people taking pictures of this. I'll be sharing this entire PowerPoint with everybody, and when you open it up, you'll find some videos inside it, which I'm not showing you today, but you're most welcome to take a look at those and see this station in a bit more detail. I don't need to brag. We're number one. You're not. I always find these really interesting. Whether they're right or wrong or anything else, it doesn't really matter. But it is quite assuring when you kind of work in metro and stuff. You see that people really appreciate it. My mother used to say, thought I was going to design her a house, and she said, "Don't you ever get bored of designing metro stations, Andrew?" And I said, "No. I think everyone is different. Everyone is unique, and I've had a career that's taken me around the world, designing metros in different cities, in different cultures." But the real kicker is that how many people use my work. Billions of people use my stations every single day. It's up there with iPhone use in reality. And that's why I became an architect, to shape cities and build cities. And really, when you start to work in metros, and you see the metros I worked, suddenly Dubai is quite a way down there on the list. So hopefully with the blue line, I can get it a little bit higher up the list next time it comes out. And that excitement, 1979, opening the railway, first time that most of these people had ever been on a railway through here, jumping over the turnstiles. Now, this next slide, I always get in trouble when I was working with MTR, but I love showing it anyway. We had those riots, I can't call them riots, the public order events through here. And I just love the fact this guy's wearing the yellow hat, and he's almost jumping over exactly the same way this guy was many, many years later. But the real enthusiasm is actually these kids. This was at 5 o'clock in the morning in 2022, opening up of the Cross Harbour extension of the East Rail line. And that enthusiasm that they have to get onto the train. These kids have grown up with the MTR, but they're still such fans, they want to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and run there and be the first people to use the trains. Personally, I like to think that they were rushing in there to see my artwork. This is a fantastic piece. It's actually the single largest artwork in the entire MTR. And it shows you how artists can open your eyes up to doing things and seeing things differently. This is 2,500 photographs of the water of Victoria Harbour. And what it's done, it's arranged such that this wall it's on is when you're standing underground in the station, you're facing Victoria Harbour. So it gives you orientation underground as well. So if you know you're facing Victoria Harbour, you know you're actually looking north. And so therefore to your left is west and to your right is east. So it gives you orientation through there. And it shows you the beauty. Who would have known there were so many colours in the water? It just opens your eyes out to this. And it sits quietly in the background of a very busy metro station. Please, if you've got time to visit, it's well worth it. And I'd also say that if you go to the station now, there are two exhibitions, one about the building of this particular section of the line, and another one about the history of the East Rail line, which has actually been in operation for over 100 years. So it's well worth a visit to go and see. And here you see it just going through. We treated it like wallpaper, just go through. The advertising goes across it. It was not precious about it, but it gives you this wonderful patina from blues to greys to silver. It's absolutely stunning. And as I was mentioning yesterday, it's also the station with the bomb in it. This station was located on the edge of Victoria Harbour. And during the Japanese occupation, the Americans bombed the ships that were there, and 3 bombs landed in the mud, didn't explode. And as we was excavating the station, we found them, and we had to evacuate the site and defuse the bombs. And some of the photos here, this little display we put through, that's the actual casing. That's me and the former project director admiring them, our handiwork. It didn't originally look so clean and nice as that. This is when the bomb squad got over it. Interestingly, with the explosive, what they do is they burn out the explosive, which seems like a completely wrong thing to do. But that's how they do it. And then Jeff, who's a local historian, did all the research and recreated this actual replica of the whole bomb as it would have looked like when it came out. So up on the top left-hand side there, you see that, so you get a view of what the bomb would have looked like, and then you actually get to touch the casing itself down below. And I took this video on opening day. So all those kids were running in, and no one was paying any attention to my artwork at all. But what they were doing, they were queuing up to get their photo done next to the vault. Absolutely amazing how many people there. But this shows you, so it's a day out for Hong Kongers. I'd love to go out and see it. Fighting my way through to the front. I don't think it's quite like that now, so you can get your selfie done a bit easier. And of course, if I can get this to go back. There was this cartoon in the paper just after opening, because like any metro project, it was rather expensive. And I loved this little cartoon where they said, oh, we didn't think you're going to be so literal about how much it cost. It really is unusual to say, that go to the station with the bomb in it. But there you go. That's a nice little touch on that. Just a little bit, touch more about colors. This is Central Station opening day. And these trains are still running. They're 40 years old. We're just in the process of replacing them right now. But you'll notice on the right-hand side is the red mosaic. And this is the station when it's completed. Now, what's really interesting about Hong Kong and the early stations is that they were very, very brutally cold and clinical. There was not an awful lot of embellishment in terms of architectural finishes. You'll notice there's no even ceiling here. It's just the black acoustic treatment and the bare lights, some tiles, and everything goes through. And that has really been the signature of MTR all over these years. This is the same station today. We've replaced the floor, we put a ceiling in, we've put new wall tiles on, but the original red tiles around the escalators, those are the same tiles from 40 years ago. So really kind of part of the whole DNA through here. And equally on the underground stations through here, this station, Tin House Station, one of the early photos I could find, the only thing that's really changed here is the addition of the platform screen doors. And that was obviously done partly for safety, but also for air conditioning reasons through there. And this is where it gets interesting, because then you go to another space that spatially is exactly the same. And the original architect, Roland Paletti, he used color as a way of identifying the station. So people could just look up and not actually have to read a station name, but they knew they were in the yellow station, the orange station, the green station. They could actually identify their way around through the underground stations. Now I'm going to teach you a little bit of Cantonese now, because when we choose the station colors, there's a little bit of logic that goes through. Wong in Cantonese is yellow. So typically if a station name has Wong in it, you'll find it's a various shade of yellow through there. Choi Hung literally means rainbow. It gets its name from a housing development just beside the station, which is painted in a rainbow color, and this is about as creative as they got in the early days through there. And Lam literally means blue. So again, Lam Tin here was a blue station. And this encapsulates that really original design philosophy of the solid blue colors, the use of mosaic, and the use of calligraphy. And the calligraphy in itself has got an interesting story. It's done by a retired MTR employee. And as I was planning the new lines, one of my staff got in touch with him. He's retired in Australia, and he's written the calligraphy for the new stations that are coming up. So it's all continuously by the same hand throughout the entire network. But there's a problem. You run out of colors. And when I moved into Hong Kong, this is the South Island line, I chided my former chief architect. I said, surely, you've got more than the markers here to choose your station colors from, because it just felt that they weren't using color in a very sophisticated way. Of course, there's only so many colors you can have. I mean, this is just a sample of all the different colors that we have in Hong Kong. You'll see that, yes, there are a range of colors, but how many blue stations we've got, how many yellow stations we've got, we do start to run out of colors quite quickly. And you get this situation starting to happen. You get Tin Hau, North Point, which one's which? They're both orange stations. They're relatively close together. How do you tell them apart? And when you go deep underground, it gets even worse. Which station am I in of those two? I can't tell. Think a unique color, but actually the colors are all the same. And this, frankly, is where the art program comes in. So this is still North Point, but everyone recognizes this because this artwork transforms this subway into something else, something truly memorable. And that's the connection between art and wayfinding. It's not just about putting pretty pictures on the wall. It is helping people navigate their way through underground spaces. A world without windows is really important, where you get these memory markers created in various places to start saying, oh, I remember seeing that on the way in. Therefore, I pass this, I know I'm going correctly on the way out. It's a lot nicer than putting a sign up on the station. And I mentioned earlier, this slide was in my opening speech, that Fotan station, my local station, is a rather unloved suburban station. As I change to the next slide, you'll see that the only thing that's actually kept was the clock. That was what it looked like when I started working there. So again, the power of art and architecture to transform these spaces is really remarkable. Now I'd like to talk about an artwork I did about 5 years ago. It was actually a collaboration with the Hong Kong Design Center. I put it in here a lot because I know that we was being hosted by these guys. We created a lot of art for new stations. We commissioned the artworks right at the start with the design process, and they're truly integrated. But Hong Kong never had art in its original network. And I had a relatively small budget each year to put art in existing stations. And Wan Chai Station is like the heart of the nightlife area. It's famously used to be a very big red light district because it's where the ships used to come in. Had a certain vibrancy to it, but it was just a boring green station. And I got together with the UK Design Council, and we came up with this project to do a photographic mural, which we did with the Hong Kong Ballet. I'm a big ballet fan, as my wife knows, and I drag her off to the ballet all the time. And this was an opportunity to work with the ballet company up close. And I just want to take you through this artwork very quickly in a little video. More than 78,000 a day. The key to this was bringing the energy and vibrancy of Wan Chai underground. So as you got off the train, you felt like you was in Wan Chai. It was really, really important to have that kind of energy through there. And you know, we took the photographs late at night. It was actually also during COVID time as well. This is not changing again. Guys, can we change the slide? Got stuck on me again. Next one, is it? We'll jump straight to this video then. Okay, because this is the making of it. So this is the Hong Kong Ballet team, and we shot it, a lot of it was green screen at their rehearsal studio at the Cultural Centre. We worked with Jevan, the director, and one of the things, not a visual artist, not a photographer, because he's a film producer, he made all these little videos of the whole production, which was really interesting. It's one thing you can produce a book and there's, you go visit the station, but the real magic is actually the making of this, getting people to collaborate that wouldn't normally collaborate together. Whilst we have professional ballet dancers in here, there are also cameo appearances by myself and MTR staff. We go down to the station. For those who come to the tour yesterday, met Kwok. Kwok is in one of the photographs right in the station. So my secretary's in there, the other friends are in the artwork permanently on the walls. So it's a really kind of collaborative process right through to create the entire art. This is going to work. We go to the next slide. There's Kwok. on the right-hand side for those that you met him last week. So he's running along the platform along with the dancers themselves. So to Admiralty Station, we spent a bit of time talking about Admiralty and doing the visit yesterday, and it's kind of nice to see the station. I just want to take you through some of the planning and some of the construction, which I couldn't show you during the tour yesterday. So I'm going to start off with just a little video that we made for a competition entry. And then after that, I'll take you through the whole thing. Those of you who missed the tour yesterday, it just shows you what the...
In 2022, we opened this amazing extension of the East Rail line, extending the century-old railway to Hong Kong Island. At the heart of the atrium is a stunning new artwork called Mapping Our Way, based on the 4 intersecting lines at Admiralty Station. As Hong Kong's busiest station, around 500,000 passengers pass through here every day. Admiralty Station is an architectural masterpiece, the super hub that keeps Hong Kong moving.
Nonsense that the marketing people make you say. I didn't write that script. But the reality is that until this railway was done, Admiralty Station here was really over capacity. So you have to wait typically 3 or 4 trains before you could get into the train. You can see through here the crowd management that was going on, a really, really busy station through there. And it didn't used to be like that. I want to throw this slide in through here because this is what the original station as it was built, and you can see the blue mosaic tile through here. And of course it was before the platform screen doors were integrated. This was the station that we inherited, let's say designed in the 1980s. It's interesting that it brings 2 lines together, the Tsuen Wan line and the Island line, and they're vertically stacked on each other to enable cross-platform interchange between the 2 lines. And because one of the lines is coming across the harbour and the other line's coming along the island itself, it means that the station is actually a big V shape. And we use that V to actually create the new station. So if I click onto the next slide, I just move that up a bit. So that was the existing station. Then the first thing we built was the lowest station along the way. So this one is actually now level 6 levels below ground level through there. And this one opened in about 2014, 2015. And in 2022, we opened the rest of the station with the East Rail extension when we finally got the correction going across under the harbour. So you can see the complexity through here. We went through many, many iterations of how to move the people around. I was asked several times yesterday. There was a lot of Legion modelling going on to ensure that we could actually move the people around as we wanted to get them around safely. A bit of the BIM model shows the 2 lines, the red line and the blue line, and the new construction that was doing underneath. And the entire station was constructed in that little triangle where the park was that I showed you yesterday. And this is the station under construction. In the back there, you can see the main cavern. That was the main cavern that we was going through. And to the left and right of that are the running tracks through there. Where the words are up there, the C901, that is actually the Island line running across, supported on steel superstructure underneath. And we didn't stop the railway running for a single day when we was building this railway. It was really quite an engineering achievement. And of course, roughly now, that is what you got. So you got this big cavern space, which is the transfer concourse, the East Rail loading and unloading platforms, and underneath that is the South Island line, which takes you on to the south of the island itself. And with that, we also upgraded the existing station. So this was starting to look a bit tired. It was a blue station. And one of the problems with it, it has blue on blue on blue. And so from a circulation point of view, it's really hard to kind of see your way around. And so this is the same area after we transformed it. We removed a lot of the mosaic because it wanted to be friendly for the advertisers. But we also gave it a clean white background. So if you go to the station today, the central zone is actually white in this station with the blue on the outside. So as you're on a train, you see a blue station. You get off the train, it turns into a more white space, and that's easier for the wayfinding. It's easier to see signs against the white background than the blue background. So it's a very key change that we made in the whole planning. This was the original staircase that we visited yesterday, and the original artwork. Actually, I was surprised at my own power of being the chief architect. When I joined MTR, I asked for that to be removed, and within a week it had gone. It was absolutely amazing. I didn't realize I had such power. It was bloody awful thing. And we worked very hard to come up with the new artwork through here. And as we was talking about it yesterday, change? Sorry, Richard. It comes and goes, this clicker. There we go. We changed it to this, which is a 3 meter by 3 meter QR code through there. You go to the next one. So the brief for this artwork was that it had to be mosaic, and we had about 10 entries, and all of them were variations on this. I won't show you all of them, but basically it was a Pac-Man type drawing. It was going to draw Hong Kong skyline, the various towers in tiles, and it just wasn't very creative, wasn't very original. But one architect came up with this idea of using the QR codes, and it's based on originally Morse code that you see here, which is what the ships would have originally communicated with each other, dots and dashes, the original digital communication, and of course, modern QR codes. And we was very conscious that we realized that maybe QR codes would be superseded by something else. And we wanted to create that kind of memory. You remember the days when we all used to use QR codes? It's like, remember the days when we used USBs or cassette tapes or CDs? We think it's the latest technology, but then it'll get superseded. And we was very conscious of that one day QR codes will be history. But we wanted to create a little bit of history of our time to say this is what it is today. And what I'm also particularly interested in, this is just one example. As an architect delivering what we promise, I think it's really important as architects and designers that when you put forward an image like this to your client, you actually deliver it. There you go, that's built. So we really, really worked hard to make sure that as we designed it, we delivered it, and it's almost to the millimeter. And each of these messages in Morse code are real Morse code messages. It's got welcome to Admiralty Station, MTR, caring for life's journeys, and the various other slogans that we have through there. And here you see it connected, and when you click on the QR code, you can go to the MTR website. When we're advertising on here, the local advertisers website will come up rather than the MTR website. So there's a kind of commercial aspect to this as well. Of course, there's the fabulous artwork that I pointed out, designed by an American artist called Tally Fisher. Here she is. She actually hasn't seen the artwork completed. She came over to Shenzhen to visit us when we just finished making the artwork, but it hadn't yet been painted. So we was just testing it and putting it all together, and then we were about to send it off to the paint shop. And here you see it installed. And the interesting thing is you look on the right-hand side, it's deliberately perforated. So as you travel on the escalators, you get this moire effect of it actually feels like it's moving a little bit. So we wanted to avoid making it a moving artwork. It is static. But as we have moving people, we decided to actually have them create the movement for us visually, rather than the artwork itself actually moving. Struggling to go on to the next slide. Go back one, please. All right, thank you. I hear interesting stories about the various artworks, and one of the most common misconceptions here is that the artwork itself comprises of Chinese characters. Anyone that reads Chinese will know that these are not Chinese characters. They're actually based on sketches drawn over the Hong Kong metro map. And I thought for a metro mapping symposium, this would be a nice little detail to take away with you, where you can boast to your friends. You can see the actual characters that she's created. She actually sat down with our map and traced over the lines to create each of the 4 symbols that are on the artwork through there. And of course, you see it in the atrium, and it's custom designed to be in that space and be traveled around and under and become a visual marker within the big atrium space. And we visited this big window. There's a very important part of my work globally is to bring daylight underground into many of the stations. And this skylight was really, really important to that. But I wanted to show you this next slide because they had the big ducks coming here. And our marketing team decided that, they said to me, would you mind if we put a big duck on this window? And I said, absolutely not. And once again, what happened is I had more photographs of the duck than I did of my artwork. So again, it's amazing how the marketing works around here. I thought I'd close with just talking about the artwork at the local station here. If you come here via Sham Shui Po station, you will have seen an artwork that we've created here specifically for this area. This is the Sham Shui Po district. It's a really interesting district of Hong Kong. When you go outside look around, explore it a little bit later. And we worked with a local design college here, which sadly is no longer in Hong Kong, called SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design. And we worked with their students to create this kind of a mural. This actually predated the Wan Chai artwork through here, but it was actually my inspiration. This was my kind of test bed to see whether this would work. So you've got photographs of the local areas on the balustrades down underground. So once again, this principle of bringing the environment that you're actually at underground so you know where you are. But what we did here was we recreated the local seats. So you have this seating here, which is local plastic stools, if you go to any of the cafes here, and we made them seats on the platform, and then with backdrops of photographs through there. And my favorite one, which is this one, where you see the shop houses actually recreated as seats through here, and you get the backdrops. You actually feel like you're in Sham Shui Po, even though you're on the underground station. My last slide is this one. As I mentioned, I've done over 200 stations. I've probably done more than 200 artworks in my entire career. But I'm often asked, which is the favorite? And I'll be biased. This is the favorite. Not an artist I actually commissioned, but I was responsible for making the artwork happen and actually making it get into realizing it. So at Sai Ying Pun Station, it's by a British artist called Louise Soloway Chan. And it's a three-dimensional work, and it's an absolute gem of a piece. It's on the Island Line. It's towards the end, the western end of the Island Line. Please, if you've got time to go and see one artwork while you're here, go and see this, because photographs do not do it justice. I'm just going to leave you this one teaser photograph. But get out there, travel on the metro. There's over 80 artworks that we have in Hong Kong alone, and there's some books on the side here about the artwork program. If you want to know more about it, obviously we can talk about later. But thank you for your patience. That was, I know, a lot more than 30 minutes, but thank you very much.